Welcome back to Civil Discourse Now. That's Paul Ogden. I'm Mark Small. Our guest today is Sean Shepard. We've been talking about fair tax. We're coming to you from Big Hat Books in the Broad Ripple section of Indianapolis, Indiana. It's on the north side of Indianapolis. Big Hat Books has an excellent selection of books. There's space up here that you can rent out for all occasions. The selection of books they have is rather arcane and really kind of interesting, and it's a neat place to come in. There are chairs downstairs where you can sit down and flip through a book, flip through pages. One such book is Crime Pays. It's a novel. I wrote it. I think it's a good book.
Shameless plug.
Shameless.
Mark, do you want to talk about next week's show? I think we talked about possibly promoting that on here.
The next couple of shows. Next week we're going to have a couple of candidates on who are running for local office in the November elections.
Okay.
And then on the 22nd we will have Randy Martin is an activist here in the community involved in working against drugs and stopping drug abuse, etc. He is going to be on the program, and we're going to discuss legalization of drugs because I believe drugs should be legalized. Paul kind of has a mamby-pamby partway.
Middle ground.
Yeah,
moderate.
It is moderate
Yeah,
middle ground. Then on the 29th, we are hoping to have another. The next two shows after that will be about the elections, and we'll give further details later. Paul's blog, his website is Ogden. I always want to say on law. It's Ogden on Politics.
I do actually have an Ogden at Law website.
Oh, okay.
For my law firm.
And then this can be found at 3leftturnsmakearight.com. We're changing the URL this week once we figure out how to do that. But that's beside the point. And our technology will be improved. Our sound quality will be improved. This is a little echoey today, less so than it has been, but we'll be making improvements in the future. At the end of the last segment, we're going to start talking here in a couple minutes about the Federal Reserve. Just at the end there of that last segment, Sean, you were mentioning, we were talking about how people wouldn't pay taxes and they would avoid paying taxes. And we went on off camera and you made a comment.
Okay. Well, beyond the fact that people already try to avoid paying those taxes, but let's keep in mind that one of the great things about, again, a consumption tax is that it has that built-in barrier to an excessive rate. So in order to collect more revenue, the government would have to lower the rate.
Okay.
That's true with income taxes.
That's often true with income taxes because it becomes
Lower
less punitive to earn the money or to spend it in the consumption tax.
Whenever you tax something, you get less of it. That's
exactly
the principle of economics.
That's exactly
right.
right.
Higher tax rate, unless you're going to give something.
Yeah, the fair tax, though, or rather any consumption tax is inherently regressive. I know that there's the prebate you talk about, but it's inherently regressive as far as the sales tax is concerned because a person making $20,000 a year in this economy, for example, they're going to spend all that $20,000 just to survive.
But they'll pay no tax at the end of the day.
No income tax. Now, in your situation, in terms of the fair tax, they would pay no tax, but they might not be able to buy as many goods. They might not be able to buy what they need. There would still be some kind of government assistance for people. There would be food stamps. There would be programs.
Well, again, we're just talking about revenue collection. We're not talking about getting rid of whatever pet programs or welfare programs or anything anybody else has. We're just talking about a change in how we collect the money. It's been calculated out to collect the same amount of money we collect now, so it doesn't affect the budget. It doesn't collect anything. Those are always separate issues.
But ultimately, then there might be a situation where people pay no taxes.
And we'll.
I mean, I'm just saying.
You make that sound like a bad thing, but.
Well, but then we wouldn't have government functioning at all.
You mean where people en masse are paying no taxes? So
yes.
We're not funding the government?
Yes.
Well, fair tax being calculated out so that it would be revenue neutral. so that it would collect about the exact same amount of revenue we do now.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm not quite sure. I'm not sure I follow your question.
Never mind. Let's look, because I was following up on what you had said when we went off the air, and now there's.
Oh, just that it might be, that people not paying as much in taxes might be a good thing. I mean, if you really think about it, let's look at the size of the federal government right now. You've got a GDP of roughly about $14 trillion, give or take, and you've got, at all levels combined, local, state, and federal, probably around 5 to 6, let's call it $5.5 trillion in government spending. Okay, so right there you've got more than a third of your economy. Okay, tied up just in government spending. But now let's contrast that. Let's just take the government piece out of it, the $5.5 trillion, and line it up to the roughly maybe $9 trillion we have left. And you've got a government that is now 60% or more as large as the entire private sector.
Yes, but
that's not sustainable.
In some instances, it's not. Parts of that government structure that are necessary are parts of those expenditures are providing jobs, are creating jobs. It's not just that the government is taking money and running someplace.
Providing them and creating them how? Government can't create jobs.
Well, they have agencies that employ people. We have
but in order to pay for those employees, they first had to destroy a job by taking the money out of the economy to pay for something directly.
They didn't destroy a job by creating Indiana University or Purdue University and having that school there.
That's different. We're talking about a federal item here, not state-run universities, but.
Well, okay, then let's talk about.
And theoretically, universities should be paid for out of the tuition from the people that go there.
You know what the tuition is now?
Oh, it's got to be outrageous.
No, it is outrageous.
But you know why it's outrageous? What two things have gone up more in cost in the last 30 or 40 years than anything else?
Fuel and medical expenses.
Okay, medical expenses, tuition. Now, why is it happening?
I can tell you why. There's no competition to keep down facilities costs on those campuses. They don't compete against each other. You go on these college campuses now, the facilities are just phenomenal.
They are.
And they're out of control.
Well, listen, they're competing like crazy against each other to get the students in. They are definitely in competition. I can tell you, like DePaul, where I went, is outrageously high in tuition, but very well worth it.
But if you could not go $40,000, $50,000, $100,000 in debt on government-subsidized loans to go get a college degree, they couldn't charge you $40,000, $50,000, $100,000 to provide it. The cost would have to go down. It's the same reason a lot of medical procedures are so expensive, is because the end person getting the service isn't having to pay for it right then and there.
No, it's because we have the costs of the services that are being provided being set by individuals who are shareholders, indirectly, in insurance corporations or in the corporations that are providing those medical procedures. We are twice as expensive here per capita. We are straying off our topic. I don't care. I'm happy. This is fun. It's a good conversation. But we're twice as expensive per capita as the second most expensive country in the world for medical care. We don't have the #1 medical care in the world. So it can't be because there's something phenomenally great that we're doing.
Well, first off, Medicare and Medicaid alone, its intrusion into the healthcare marketplace increases the costs on private payers by anywhere from 15 to 30%.
Almost like a single payer.
Okay. So we've got that issue. But also, the way our system is set up, and a lot of this is because of regulations and government involvement, if I go to have a procedure, I can't even ask the doctor what it's going to cost, because he doesn't know. He might know what his fee is, but he can't tell me what the hospital room is going to cost, what the anesthesiologist is going to cost, what the lab work is going to cost. You can't even get a price, much less be able to pick up the phone and say, this is my money, and shop around and say, how much are you going to charge me for
And
this?
the reason, and you bring up my point, and I'm opposed to Mark's socialist ramblings, competition. There's no competition. You have to know how much it's going to cost me. I don't know how much it costs for an appendectomy, $5,000. I go to someplace else, it's going to cost $7,000. I'm going to pick the $5,000. And you talk about insurance. To me, the problem is there is no competition when it comes to these insurance companies. I have one choice when I go out there. Very often it's Anthem. And that's it. I can't go and shop around for a different insurer if I have one choice.
And people confuse prepaid health care with catastrophic insurance. The example would be you have insurance in case you wreck your car, right?
Yes.
Okay. Well, what if your insurance also had to cover, by government mandate, your tire changes, your oil changes, your windshield wipers, repairs to the cloth in the car, filters, brake pads, now. And they had to provide that and pay for those expenses. How much more would your insurance be, and how much more frequently might you get your tires changed, your oil changed, your filters replaced?
And a car is different from a human body, and the point on the insurance costs and what we have in terms of systems, yeah, you don't know how much an appendectomy is going to cost. And if you were in Great Britain and you needed an appendectomy, first of all, it would be an emergency procedure, so I don't think you'd be shopping. But secondly, there would be zero cost. You already paid for that, you paid for it in your taxes. That's the way things are up in Canada. Those matters are taken.
Well, you might have paid for it in your taxes, or someone else might have paid for it in their taxes. If I get up on my roof and I'm nailing some shingles down, and I fall off my roof,
you're supposed to get the guy.
and I fall off my roof. I've got the guy, but let's say I'm doing that. Let's say I'm doing that, and I fall off my roof, and I break my arm or my leg when I hit the ground. How is that your responsibility to pay my bill? Or let's say something terribly tragic happens to me. How is it your responsibility to have that cost put on you?
Okay, first of all, let me rephrase it a little bit. My answer. It's not my responsibility to pay for that, but a reality is that in our society, ultimately, if something like that catastrophic happens to you, then I'm going to pay for it. If there isn't some means of repairing your body, I'm going to be paying for it overall as a society we are, because we have to take care of one another.
And this, there's a moral impetus to do that, even though it maybe shouldn't be enforced at gunpoint. But at the same time, this is why it is important that we understand how these things work economically so that we can keep those costs down.
Okay.
Do we want to get back on the other stuff?
Yeah, we've gone far afield on the fair tax, but it's been interesting as a discussion. We're going to start.
Let me ask, what is the status of the fair tax?
That's good, and
that's a good question. The status of the fair tax, it's introduced in every session of Congress. In the House, it's always H.R. 25. It typically has anywhere from 40 to 70 co-sponsors on the bill. They do have a couple from Indiana that
Mike
are on
Pence
the
is the sponsor.
bill. Mike Pence, I don't believe, re-upped on the bill. Lugar did finally come in support of it after being begged, but I think he saw the competition with Murdoch and decided I better do something. Burton is a co-sponsor, but it's got some momentum behind it. It just needs more people to believe it could happen.
End of our third segment. We'll be back in just a minute.